Hi, we are just about to put a rubber roof on a garden shed, which to many might seem a little bit of overkill, but the felt that comes with garden sheds is normally absolute rubbish. It doesn't last 5 minutes, and of course you have to nail it in place, and the minute you're nailing through a roof surface, you're asking yourself for problems. So we use rubber. We get our rubber from a company called Plytech. And we're using quite a heavy duty 1.52mm rubber. This is my personal preference. I use the heavy duty. The next size down is 1.14, which is perfectly okay for sheds. I prefer to go up a grade because of the movement that occurs in the shed below. When you've given Plytech your sizes, or any other rubber company, they will send you a sheet of rubber which will cover the entire area. Always allow, when you're measuring, for at least 200mm around all four sides of the shed, because you will need to trim it out with fascia boards or whatever and stop any ends of the rubber flapping about in the wind. That's the major problem of shed roofs. When the wind gets under an edge, it starts ripping it up. So that will occur with rubber. If the wind is allowed to get underneath the edge, the rubber won't split, but the wind will lift it off the roof. So the ends are held down with trim. On most jobs, a lot of jobs, you can get the trim purpose made by Plytech. The trim will fit round. You give them the sizes and it will fit round. We're going to show you a DIY way of doing trim, using some sawn timber and making our own fascia boards and stuff. So that will be cheaper for you, but I would strongly advise, if you're using the rubber on a flat roof, you get the proprietary trim. Don't be tempted to make your own. If you have it made, it fits properly and snugly, and it will make sure that your flat roof stays solid. But for our purposes here, I'm going to show you how to make some DIY trim out of sawn timber. So the first thing to do is, when your sheet of rubber arrives, it's going to be bigger. They will cut it to their standard widths, so it will be bigger than you need. So make absolutely sure, and it's always better if you can get somebody else's help, make absolutely sure that you measure all the way through so that the rubber is perfectly square. The cut, you can see the cut along here, and if the camera zooms along, we've measured this. I know that this edge is going to sit on the ridge of the roof. It's the pointy bit at the top, and I know that when we get to the other end, I'm going to have a 200mm overlap, which is going to tuck under the roof and then be held in place by a fascia board. So the first point is to make absolutely sure that everything's square. The second thing that we're going to do now is, having cut that, is we'll make sure that we roll it up and make it easier to get on the roof. So if Charles grabs this end here, now you can roll it like lino or carpet. I prefer to roll it in sections, so that when I unroll it on the roof, I'm painting or putting adhesive on one section at a time. So we're going to lay the rubber on the roof in two sections. We've laid the section that we've cut downstairs out to make absolutely sure that it's the right size, and as you can see from the inserts, we've got a 300mm overhang at both ends and a couple of 100mm at the fascia, the eaves end of the roof, and we've lined the cut up with the ridge, so we know it's in the perfect place. We're going to roll that back once again, and then we're going to start sticking with quick bond. And this is a water-based rubber adhesive. It's fantastic. We'll talk about that in a moment. But having checked that everything is square, that everything is going to fit, we're going to roll this up once again, and then you'll see us actually applying the adhesive and getting the rubber on the roof. you've just seen the first section being stuck down. This is a porous roof, a timber roof. The traffic noise is particularly horrendous in this section, so what I'm saying is where there's a porous roof, the adhesive is just applied to one surface, that is the porous surface. Where there is no porous surface, and in this case there are flash band joints protecting the timber before we put the rubber on, then the adhesive is applied to both surfaces, both the non-porous surface and the rubber, allowed to go tacky, and then it is stuck down. So to speed up this process, we've speeded this section, the video speed of this section, and it will resume properly in a moment. So there we have the first half. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second half in a moment. The procedure is exactly the same. The only real difference is when we get to the top of the roof, we will have allowed another 200mm overlap, which we are going to stick down with some seam tape. So we will show you when we get to that point exactly what that means. Okay, so we've had some breakfast. We've given the roof an hour or so that we can walk about on the rubber without it sliding about. And now it's time to join the two sections. So first of all, we fold back the overlap, and then we're going to use the Rubberall seam tape primer. This is really important. The first thing that's important is that it's very well shaken, if not stirred, and then we're going to use it to prime the rubber on both sides. Once it's primed, we're going to use the seam tape and fold the rubber down onto the seam tape to make an absolutely perfect seal. Now this is really very, very strong. It's solvent based, the primer, so we strongly recommend wearing latex gloves if you're at home, and you'll see the application in just a second. The way that we apply the primer is with a little green household scouring pad. I've found over the years that that's the easiest way to apply it. Make sure, as I've said, that this is well shaken, if not stirred, and then remove the top. Keep that somewhere safe. Put liberal amounts of the primer on the scourer, and then simply scrub the surface of the rubber wider than the seam tape on both sides, so that we know we're going to get an absolutely perfect seal. Immediately the rubber will go wet and shiny, that's good. And then we do an area. It's the seam tape isn't applied until the primer is dry to the touch, so don't be frightened of it. Give it a really good scrub so that it's absolutely clean. See that nice and shiny. And then just to show you what we're going to do, we're going to cut a section of rubber off, section of seam tape off. So we'll do this one in close up. Very, very sticky stuff. Okay. And then we apply the seam tape to the surface, press down hard, and peel the backing paper off. Okay. Now ordinarily drilling, you'd go right along the roof, or at least in bigger sections than this. So this is just so that the video can get a close up. I need to cut the fold at the end. Be careful you don't cut the rubber. Okay, so that's flat. Onto the primer. Get rid of that. And then we fold that down over the seam tape, pushing down as we go. And we'll cut the surplus off in a moment. You'll see that happening. But push that right down to the edge of the seam tape, and then we will go over it in a moment again, and we will use the grout float to push that down solidly. Now, because we've let that primer go dry to the touch, that then is absolutely immovable. That is almost a welded seam. So we get the float and we just give that a really good push down. And by using the primer to make it tacky, by using the seam tape, you can see that now that's absolutely, and even where the edge is tacked, just the primer, just the use of the primer on the surface glues those two bits together. But the important thing is the seam tape. We will actually lift this and cut this along the seam tape. What is important here, that there's no wind lift on the edge. So that's how we're going to use the seam tape. We're going to keep the camera rolling so that you can see the seam tape being applied all the way along. So we'll get on with that now. And that's how we finish the top edge of the roof using seam pipe. If you're lucky enough to have a chalk line at home, or you want to go and get one, they're quite inexpensive. Lay the chalk line along the roof, along the line of the seam tape, ping the line and run the seam tape to it after priming to it on a straight line, and then cut the overlap afterwards, as you will see. And there we have a completely installed rubber roof. To see the second part of this video, how to install the trims, fascias and barge boards, please click into part 2 of installing a rubber roof, DIY fascias, trims and barge boards.